I don't want to be like that hipster that I don't eat meat anymore. But I don't need meat. Like I don't crave meat. Like I have a friend who craves like steak. I don't eat steak. When I go to an Outback Steakhouse or something, I get chicken or fish, which is like something you're not supposed to do. But
Do you have another way of intaking iron and
beans,
yeah,
lentils,
soybeans?
um, yeah.
Yeah, well that
I have never been to the doctor actually, so I don't. For all I know, I have no iron. You neither.
no.
We just fist bumped.
Yeah, I just I
It's a
don't
terrible thing to be proud of.
I don't trust the pharmaceutical companies.
But that's not all they do. There's dietitians. There's
It's true. Local dietitians I trust.
Sure,
Yeah,
sure,
but
sure.
it seems that when they work
You don't
in
go to a
institutions-
butcher and then you ask for a diet plan. You know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah. It seems like institutions are more worried about profiteering off of us. Like, how can we make this a long-term customer instead of how can we cure them? You know?
Last time I came here, I call this the THEOUTERHAEVEN Studios. There was a doctor that was he was showing me all his credentials and everything. He's like, I moved to the Valley because obesity, diabetes is crazy here. And like the doctors, they don't even treat diabetes. They don't try to prevent it. They're just like, let's put you on dialysis.
Yeah.
Like, and I'm just like, damn.
Straight to it.
And he says like on his way to church every Sunday, he sees like the dialysis clinic and it's just packed like a Walmart. And I was like, oh, that hurt to hear.
Mm.
And I feel responsible for that because, you know, not responsible, but I feel I have to confront my Hispanic genes and
It's like,
the
wait a
culture.
minute,
It's like we all enable that, so I'm responsible for that.
Yeah, and our culture, you're right. Like we have a lot of greasy foods.
It's very bad.
Yeah,
It's good, but it's bad.
it's
you know?
good for the tongue, bad for the body.
Yeah, and it's finally taken its toll on me. I remember in 2005, I dropped 70 pounds. I went from 240 to 170 in the summer, accidentally. Like, I stopped eating because I was dating a bulimic at the time, and I just couldn't eat with her, right, especially, and I couldn't eat at all. So I basically didn't eat for a summer. But I can't do that today. I can't do that 10 years later. Like, try to lose weight, like, especially rapidly. I can't. So it has to be gradual. It has to be like, I stopped the sugar water, I stopped this, I stopped that, and I don't have to worry about that anymore.
And when you do it like gradually, it's more permanent.
It's supposed to be a lifestyle.
Yeah, it is a lifestyle change.
Yeah.
I have some friends that work out and they're like, "Oh, I can't wait till I don't have to work out anymore." And I look at them like, it's a lifestyle change. Like if you want to look like that, you have to do everything you're doing right now for as long as you can. And you kind of got sad, but I mean, someone has to tell these people like it's not for aesthetics.
Yeah.
It's for your health.
Yeah, I'm torn. Like I do care about my health. Like I said, I haven't been to the doctor, and I want to get blood done, and I want them to tell me, dude, it's bad. You need to do this. I'll be like, it'll give me leverage to care. But it's kind of superficial. Like I just want to look good naked.
Yeah.
You know, I don't like.
I mean, that's just the honest truth.
Yeah, I don't like being fat and like making love like being fat, because then I feel like it's not as good as it's supposed to be.
You want to give the best for your woman.
Yeah. And also I want to accept her love. I can't accept that she's making love to like Humpty Dumpty. I can't accept that. It's not as fulfilling. It's not as fulfilling as it can be.
Yeah.
So I'm working on that. It's superficial. I do want to go to a doctor. That's my goal this year. To get blood work done, to get the whole... I've never had a physical. Even in high school or middle school, nobody ever touched my balls and was like, cough. I don't even think people do that. They do, right? Like that's a thing. It's never happened to me. So I don't know. I'm missing out.
Yeah, I don't know. They can catch early stuff like cancerous signs, symptoms, things like that.
I know.
Nature.
Yeah.
But I feel you on the whole. There is some aesthetics to it, and we can't shun away from that.
Mm-hmm.
But I feel like the reason those body types look attractive to us is because we know that behind that is good decisions.
That's what it is.
That's what it is. It's like, oh, this guy knows how to make right choices, and women are attracted to that.
He has discipline or whatever.
He has discipline. Yeah.
I
I hate that when people look at me, they see my past 5 years decisions, and I feel like that's obsolete. I'm trying to change that.
Yeah.
I've lost like 45 pounds, something like that.
Oh, congrats.
Just by doing similar things, like leaving sugar out of the diet.
Yeah.
A little bit less harina.
A little bit.
I want to cut it off, but it's so good. It reminds me of my grandmother,
Yeah, and that's what it is. It's an emotional attachment.
Yeah.
Because when you eat let's say like a barbacoa taco, right? You're feeling fancy.
Fancy and
you're
guilty,
feeling rich, right? And you're eating just anything with like tortillas. You're like the endorphins and the dopamine and everything that you're getting. It's rewarding like the memory of the first time you had that just as much as like the sensation as it is right now, you know. It's bad. And man, the Valley is supposed to be like a pro artist Valley podcast, and here we are kind of just being like, God damn it. But that's keeping it real, you know, because it's not perfect and it has a lot of areas of opportunity. Diet is, you know, we're not Portland. We'll probably never be that. There's like a Whole Foods. No, not a Whole Foods. A farmer's market, but in McAllen. So like Donna and like Far are fucked.
Yeah, we have to drive.
Yeah, we have to drive. It's hard, you know. But reasons come first, answers come second. I've always believed that. And whether if it's I want to look better, I want to fuck better, I don't want to like ejaculate cottage cheese. If that's the leverage you need, use it, run with it, go all the way, you know. But I'm working on it. I'm a work in progress.
Me too,
I lost like 30 pounds, but I gained like 15 of them back. But I think it's a muscle because I started working out. I think it's a muscle. Yeah. I can't prove that.
Yeah, don't go by weight. I go by...
Yeah. But I know like if I dropped 40 pounds of fat, I feel like I'd get more opportunity. I'd be able to get more work. I'd be able to have more energy to go longer when it comes to anything. Like half the reason let's just get into the show at this point. People are like, why are we listening to this? I'm sitting here with Luis Cantu, and you know, all his work will be in the show notes. Check him out. Shorthand, I'll say that he's a looper. I like the way that sounds anyways, because there's maybe one in the Valley, and it's him, and you have to check him out. I met him at Yerberia Cultura. He was doing an open mic, and real quick, I'll get into that. But I get almost an anxiety attack every time I go downtown. I don't know if this is normal or if most people feel this way, but it's because there's such a judgy atmosphere. There's such a superficial, like everybody look at me like I'm representing this kind of thing, and I don't like that. But I invested for the first time. I'm 28 years old, and I invested in new underwear. Like, let me show you really quick. Like, really quick. You're gonna be like, that's underwear, bro? Like, check this out, right? Look at that.
All right, yeah.
That's nice.
That looks comfortable.
And it is, and it's been like 40%.
Does that change the way that you feel when you're sitting down? Like, is that what you're gonna say?
It changes the way I feel sitting down. It changes the way I don't get like swamp ass. I don't have to worry about like, does she smell me? Like, I don't have to worry about that. And it helps me like go out and be social. Just the underwear. Just that. And I got new socks. You know, I'm working on new shoes.
Yeah.
I'm working on it. I want to get Nikes because like the other day, my sister in-law was like, you should go to college. And I was like, I tried it. It didn't really work out for me. And she was like, people will take you more seriously. And I was like, nah, I don't really think so. She's like, you know, and I told her, if I had bomb-ass Nikes, if I dropped 40 pounds of fat, and I had a nice haircut, people would take me more seriously. More than a degree ever could.
More than a degree, yeah.
Ever could.
You know, we can't deny that. Like, beautiful people get more opportunities. That's just the reality of it, because it goes back to what we were talking earlier. Behind that, people subconsciously see this guy's disciplined. If I ask him to come to my event, he's gonna be there because he can take care of his body.
Right.
So it's like, yeah, it's blended into our culture. We can't deny that,
and it's okay.
It's okay. It forces us to be more responsible and to be vigilant about ourselves, and it's healthy. If we were like, oh yeah, like if we idolized fat and obesity and all that, like I feel like we would end up like, have you seen the movie WALL-E?
Yeah.
We'd end up like those people.
We're on our way.
Yeah. I mean, do you see the strollers? The other day I was walking at the park. You know, my friends play Pokemon Go. I don't have the phone to run it, but I saw people on strollers just standing and moving around, and I can't connect to that. Maybe it's just me. Hey, at least they were healthy. But I'm just scared of that technology because it just makes us lazier. Like it threw a flashback to that Wall-E scene where everyone's on a chair and floating around.
Slurpees.
Yeah.
64 ounce.
So
Slurpees.
in order to combat that reality, that dystopian reality, it's good to have these values that we hold up so dear, that beautifulness and being fit. And I say go for it. And I've seen I've seen some of your videos where you constantly keep yourself on track. Like, I'm gonna run today. I'm gonna run. And that's the way to do it.
I'm proud to say, since September of last year, so almost a year, I've worked out at least 6 days a week. Another fist bump.
That's a good fist bump.
Another fist bump. And I'm proud of that because I've never done anything habitually and consistently like that before. And, like Louis C.K. has a joke, like he runs like he's the best. He runs like 5 miles a day to keep up his piece of shit body. And like, I know how that feels a little bit, but I also know, like I said, like I lost like 30 pounds and I gained like 15 of it back. It's because, even though my physiology working out is there, I'll be like, I need a 20 piece. Like, you know what I mean? Like, I kill it with my diet. Yeah. And it's psychological. Like you were saying, how we shouldn't reward like obese behavior. We do in Mexican culture.
Yeah.
We're like, ay, pues come. You know what I mean? Like, finish that plate. Yeah. Do you want more? We have more. Take some to go. Like all that stuff. We reward it because it's affection. And that's the thing that makes, and I'm sure like a lot of other cultures have this, but that's the thing that makes it so potentially dangerous is we're attaching affection, love, camaraderie, family with greasy food.
Yeah.
And so it's kind of, when we think we have to detach from that, we're like, but I'm losing my grandma, is what people associate.
You feel that emotional detachment all of a sudden.
Yeah, man.
So I guess maybe the secret would be to find people that you can get emotionally attached to with healthy food. Yes. I mean, my girlfriend Genesis, she's been helping me a lot with that.
Oh, yeah?
Like, she goes and takes me out and buys me a salad and gives me a good time. And all of a sudden, next time that I'm having a salad, I feel her. Yeah. And I'm like, let me eat more salad.
That's exactly what it is. With all the self-help stuff that I read, I think they would intellectualize that as, like, raising your standards. And I'm sure there's, like, some sort of Mexican way of saying this, but, like, if you lie with dogs, you get fleas. You are like who you surround yourself with. Like you are the amalgamation of like the 5 people in your life, like that you hang out with the most. And so if you raise your standards and you decide, hey, I can't hang out with this person. All they want to do is smoke weed. All they want to do is like kill their ambition, eat, and that's rewarded. And you've linked camaraderie to that. It's going to be hard to divorce that. If you divorce that, you raise your standard. You hang out with kind of a little bit more. I'm not going to say better people, but people with a higher standard. Yeah. You know what I mean? That are in it for the long game. Yeah, you can condition that behavior.
I've been blessed with like 4 or 5 cousins that work out like daily. And I get inspired by them every day because I've seen the results. Yeah. I know that it works. Like I can't deny like, of course. And they're fit, and I've been hanging out with them, and you're right. Like when you get emotionally attached to people that have those standards, you just feel like, hey, like I relate to this person. Mm-hmm. She did it, he did it. Mm-hmm. Maybe I can do it too. And then that all of a sudden that maybe becomes I can do it, and no, I'm going to. Oh, I already have. Like, it's slowly, but it is gradual. Even when we're young, like I can probably lose weight faster than a 28-year-old, but
I'm still young.
I can just as easily like gain it back because my discipline's not there as much as someone who's older and wiser in age. For sure. So
I feel like I'm 28. Like I should be in some sort of prime of my life, but I also know I don't have the 18 like elasticity anymore. I don't have that 18-year-old like I can chug a 2-liter of RC and I'll be fine. No, because if I do that, my day's fucked. 3 days are fucked after that, you know what I mean? Yeah. And so, am I going to be able to go out and go to 17th Street, in that state? No, I'm not. But the underwear has changed a lot of that, honestly.
Yeah. I was going to ask, what brand is that, if you don't mind me asking, so that the audience knows, and myself.
I think it's And One.
And One?
It might be Hanes or something, too.
Yeah. It kind of, I don't know if you caught that, but it looks like almost like workout shorts. Mm-hmm. They look comfortable.
They're so comfortable.
Yeah, it looks like you won't sweat in those. Yeah. And I've had experiences where I'm in a social environment and the sweat changes the way you think. Like all of a sudden you feel uncomfortable and you start to feel anxious. Yeah. So I can see how little things like that can affect the way people communicate.
Changes everything. Yeah. Like I was still anxious going to Yerberia on Monday, which your name was called out, by the way. And then Badaba was like, he couldn't make it. Something came up, and I was like, damn it, because I had a friend there who had never seen you, and I was like, he's gonna fuck your world up. And you weren't there, and I was like, cock tease.
Something came up. A friend of mine really needed me, so
of course.
But
and also the night was, there was like this one act that really stand out for me. Well, first of all, there was this dude named
I saw a metal dude.
That metal dude was insane. I've seen him before.
What was his name?
His name is Black Moon.
Black Moon.
And
check him out, guys.
He's 25 years old. That's what he says. And he was so talented. And I'd seen him before, but he does a set, he gets his stuff, and he leaves. Like, he jets. And so that's like the third time I'd seen him, and instantly, like, I got my stuff, and I followed him before he could leave, and I was like, wait, before you leave, I need to get your name, I'd love to have you on the podcast, whatever. He blew my mind. And of course there was Filth the Terrible, who put a nail through his head.
The blockhead, the only blockhead we have in the valley.
Yeah,
that I've seen.
He ate glass. I was like, dude, for an open mic, he ate glass.
For real?
Yeah, I was like, and he ate and swallowed glass. I have to say that. He didn't just chew glass. He swallowed it.
And I love
and he was like, guys, I'm going to be at Joe's Crab Shack on Friday. And I'm like, dude, your throat's getting, grated like you swallowed a cheese grater. For an open mic, I was like, fuck, that's like, next
passion.
Level passion.
He knows what he's doing. And I love that he keeps... it's serious with the acts, but then he keeps that silliness when he says like, "Oh, it's not gonna hurt as much as when it comes out."
Oh no, I forgot he said that, dude. It's so crazy. But there was this one act.
Check him out, guys.
I can't remember his name. Terrible. And I feel terrible. I think his name was like, I'm gonna ruin it, but it was like Marco Alejandro Iglesias, like something like real thick Mexican, and he had this entourage that followed him and recorded him. Like he had like 4 people, and after he did his set, he was like, "Thank you," and his crew like got all his stuff, and like he had like an entourage. Like he was like, even though he was one dude, he had like people that like got his stuff and took him, and he played like Santana-y sort of like sad guitar. Like he was making the guitar weep,
like wail, and
I was like.
Okay, that's
and I was like, ow. And then I recorded it, and I've been wanting to put it out there online, but it wasn't like cinematic. And I don't want him to feel like I look like shit. But it's like, no, dude, it's because I didn't know I should have went in close or something. So it's not good enough to put out there. But I went up to him immediately after the show, and I was like, I really felt the loss, is all I told him. And he was like, thank you. He knew, like, shit, I put the loss out there, and you felt it. And that was a beautiful connection.
Those are the best compliments. I would say that from a musician's
really?
Yeah, from a musician's point of view, you coming up to us and saying like, I felt this. That's way better than, hey man, you were great. No, when you tell us what you felt, it's like, all right, like that's emotional connection. That's what I was looking for. Thank you for listening.
Oh, cool.
And that really like puts us in perspective.
And I'm glad that you mentioned that, because the first time I saw you, I didn't know what to expect. I saw like you brought out all the gear. The what is that? What do you call that?
The green box?
You had a whole suitcase.
Oh yeah, I carry a briefcase, and I have my Line 6 steel floor. It's actually pretty old. It's 17 years old. It came out in 1999. But the reason I love it was because I saw master looper Reginald Watts. I saw him using it, and I looked up interviews as to why he chose to use that box in particular, and he said he liked it because it's extremely tweakable. And so I purchased one, and I definitely see what he's talking about now. Reggie, I love your choice of equipment if you somehow listen to this in the future. But yeah, it's the ability to tweak your voice in real time. Like other loopers, they don't have that. I don't know why it just went out of date. But the newer loopers have like multiple tracks, so you can have 5 tracks and loop on top of each other. I can only have 1 track, so it's challenging. It's like I have to create different atmospheres with only 1 track, so it's challenging for me. And it kind of...
But it's good, because if you master the 1 track, once you get to 5, you're gonna fucking kill it.
Yeah, I don't want to go into 5 track yet. And by the way, there is another looper here in the valley. Her name is Sarita Cobos. I don't know if you saw her. She performed.
I've yet to see her.
Oh man,
really?
Sarita Cobos. She's another looper here, and she uses an R500, so she has 5 track loopers. She can mess with those ambient sounds.
The first time I saw you it was a Luis Cantu, And Ray Bettis was like, this guy, he's like, I've never seen anything like this. Like, you're going to love it. And I was like, okay, well, then let me just start recording, right? Because you never know. And my only intent behind that of filming people's stuff is it deserves to be, like, immortalized. I just feel like I have this power to capture something that could live outside of us.
Yeah,
that you have to use that,
and that's really what I admire that you increase your services. You added flashback.
Yeah.
Before it was just the outer heaven, but with flashback, like that gives it gives them more opportunity for events like quinceañeras and all that.
Yeah.
And you're right,
and also people, normies, like normal people,
exactly,
not just
artists. That's why, yeah.
And so and now people's stuff is immortalized, and I think that's really cool. And it's good for people because now they see me at Yvette and they're like, fuck, Knives is here, like I have to do something new.
Especially the comedian scene. Yeah. Like whenever they see, because they're writers. Yeah. And so when their content is captured, they kind of feel like, oh man, like now that's out there.
You can't be so precious about that.
But I'll say this. I'll say this to the comedians. Whenever your art is captured, like you're like Knives just said, you're immortal now. Like that joke's immortal and it's yours. So see it that way and see it that it forces you to create new content. So if you're into the industry, there's going to be cameras. So Knives is giving you that variable. So
yeah, and I'm just one of many other people. I mean, my quality might be all right. That's the only difference. That's other than like Instagram or whatever. It's anybody can film something on the phone now. But when I saw you, I was like, let me film this guy. And you did 3 songs, and I there was like what I appreciated about it the most was there was nothing contrived about it. Even though you're playing with artifice, you're playing with expectations and like what's the word I'm looking for? Like kind of like almost musical tropes, So you're playing with the familiar, but in a new way. So I like that. Everybody had like these little anchors of like, oh, this sounds like this, it sounds like this, it sounds like this. But it was new and it wasn't contrived. And so I felt like, whoa, this is happening right now. This is a new thing happening right now. This is the spider spinning a web right now. Like this is the only web of its kind, is what it felt like. And I call it a holy moment. And I didn't coin that term, but it just felt like when something is being authentic and true to itself, and it demands you to recognize its presence, and you have to reckon with your own attention and what's happening right here. That doesn't happen often, especially at open mics, but also in my life. I haven't felt that way since 2011 when I saw this band called Landlocked Pirates for the first time, and it was like watching Nirvana for the first time. I was like, whoa, like this is must have what it felt like to watch Kurt Cobain in '89, and then I didn't get that feeling again until 5 years later or whatever with you, and I was like, I'm in the presence of a star right now, and I'm watching the origin story, and you hear this stuff, and I know like I'm sucking your dick right now, and I'm not trying to do that. But that just rarely happens. And it's one thing to know that it's out there, and for me in my timeline to be present for that. It was an honor to see that happen. It doesn't happen often.
Thank you. I appreciate that. And I love the analogy you used about spinning a web, because when the spider is spinning the web, it actually doesn't know when it's going to stop until it reaches the middle. It just keeps going. It's something I saw on Discovery Channel. I digress, though. What I was going to say is I'll say here in this podcast that I consider myself a comedic performer, and I would fall under the category of disinformationist. Which is a genre that Reginald Watts started. I'd love to be part of that, because I feel like the reason that performance intrigues people is because I instead of going with punchline, premise, and then getting those funny jabs, and then ending with a punchline, I swirl it. I mix it around. I change conversation in the middle of a conversation, and that is rooted from Reginald Watts' performances. Because when I watch artists like that, it confuses me, and I don't know what to expect. Like you said, like all of a sudden I stop thinking about what's going on, and I just start listening. So I wanted to find a way. How can I cause that?
Yeah.
How can I entice that to happen?
But it causes you to pull from the elements of any of that given time.
Is that time that we improvised? I say we. It's weird. When I improvised Bernie Sanders, was that the time, or was that the second time that you were there?
Oh, good question. That was the first time. That was I think the second thing you did, and you did like three tracks, kind of. And that was the second part of that.
I pulled that from the audience because someone had mentioned it. Yeah. So I was like, oh, that's interesting. Let's try that. Yeah. Stuff, that is so raw. Is that what you meant? Mm-hmm. Yeah, like I had to.
Because you're like, somebody give me a word, and somebody was like penis, and you're like, you just made something out of the word penis. Like whatever it was, and I was like, that's what I mean by it wasn't contrived. It's not like you have plants in the audience, and you're like, feed me this word.
And it's on my side,
that's risky because you're setting yourself up to fail.
You can have that asshole is like anti-establishmentarianism, and I'm like, okay, buddy, but right. No, but the audience knows, they kind of know subconsciously, like if I give them an easy word, it's gonna be nice art. If I give them a hard, but you're right, it is in the moment, and I feel like that's why I love improv music. I'm gonna say I love that you can see that and you can appreciate that in artists. Mm-hmm. The reason that improv art is very sacred to me is because when I do contemporary music, when I'm rapping, like sometimes I feel, when I'm saying a verse, I already know what's gonna happen. There's no surprise for me. So it's in a way it's boring. I have to put emotion in it, or the audience doesn't feel it. But I'm in the background like like I already know what's gonna happen. Mm-hmm. With improv music, I get to amaze the audience at the same time I'm amazing myself, because I'm like, I'm making this shit up. Like I'm making it up on the spot. I don't know what's gonna happen, and so it keeps me on my toes. It's like, what am I gonna do next? What am I gonna do?
That's my favorite place to be as an artist. The only way I can relate to that is in writing. If I'm writing something, and let's say I'm writing a conversation with two people at a coffee shop, and I know persons Bill and John, and they just start talking, and now I'm writing and I'm chasing their conversation, but I don't know where it's going. That's the only thing I can kind of relate to that, and it's kind of not as cool as what you do. And so I can see you be like, I call it a state of unconsciousness. It's like It's like basketball players. They're playing basketball and they don't even know what their fifth step is going to be. They just know it's going to be there. Yeah. You know what I mean? And like you look at basketball, it's like it's like a flock of birds. Like how is there poetry in this formation?
How does it organize itself?
Yeah, and I see that you do that. You kind of put yourself on the platform where there's like, I could fail, but I'll make something out of that. I'm gonna like an alchemist, like bring that back and be like, bah, you see, it was all part of the plan, And I like that you did that. And there was a sense of command, when I saw you go out there. And you're 24 years old. 23. Fuck. You have so much more to offer, and you're going to explore, and you're going to turn into like 9 different things by the time like you're 30, But when I saw you for the first time, I was like, where has this guy been? And how long? Like I wanted to know everything, and here we are now. But I wanted to know, like, how did he get here? How hard was it? Where is he going? Is he a Valley native? What if he's not? Like, what if he's some prick that came from LA to just come over here and like take all of our energy and then go back and feel good about himself?
I'll revert this. I'll say that I was pretty tired of hearing the Valley sucks. The Valley does not have talent, and so I love the internet, and I've always been online, and I even watched videos on Yerbria before I performed there, because I couldn't go. I didn't have ride. I didn't have a car or whatever. But, when I found out that venue opened, I'm like, I've been a closet musician for so many years, and that it opened up a year ago, a couple of days ago. That's our anniversary. When I found out about it, I said, I have to go try this, because, it was a road where different people inspired me. My grandfather inspired me to play guitar, and I started with that. Razel, a beatboxer, inspired me to beatbox. Reggie Watts inspired me to improvise. And
tell me about the first moment you saw Reginald Watts, and you were like, "Fuck!" Let me tell you my first time, because it was. I'll throw a year out there. It was back then when I would watch television. And I saw him do a music video that was fuck shit, fuck shit, fuck shit, fuck shit. And I was like, this guy is hilarious, but also there is a musical mastery to what he's doing that I appreciate it. And so you know that he's not full of shit, even though he's talking about scatological humor, as they say. So that was my first time I saw that music video, and he's like, what did he say? He's like, I'm an imperialist. I'm an imperialist. So that whole thing.
Yeah, I'm a materialist.
Yeah,
I'm an imperialist.
Yeah, that whole thing. And I was like, this guy's
the motherfucker.
And the fuck shit stack. That whole thing.
The first time I showed that video to someone, they thought he was being serious, and I had to explain to them it's a parody.
Okay, I want to get into the moment you're like, oh my god, come to Jesus moment with Reggie Watts. But let me just say, you're talking that you love. Like the humor side of this, the musical humor, it's alt comedy, right? It's alternative comedy, and the best part about it is it's an inside joke, right? And there's people that are outside the bubble,
like,
and it is kind of at their expense. That's what makes it work. That's what makes all comedy work. Is a juxtaposition.
It
right?
has to be.
Is a contrast. So those people, like the smaller the bubble, the kind of funnier potentially the all comedy can be.
Yes.
And most people aren't going to get that, and that's what makes it fun. You don't want to explain. You don't want to tell people about the strings. You are the puppet, and if people get it, great. They get it. They're a part of the inside joke. They're a part of they're inside the bubble. Yeah. You know what I mean? So that person that you showed Reggie Watts to, they didn't get it.
They didn't get it.
And they were outside the bubble, but that's
why it's funny.
And he's also putting his work out there to those people that don't get it.
Yeah.
And subverting that. And he's like, yeah, I'm one of those rappers that are like smacking women in the fat asses. And people think like, oh, he's objectifying women. And it's like...
He's making fun of the people that do that.
It's a parody.
I'll say this. The first video I watched where Reggie Watts performed was actually a TED Talk. It was this TED Talk where I
know that one very well.
Yes. He makes fun of the way that the people at TED Talks talk. And, he makes that accent with Alan Watts, and he just starts going on random consciousness. But what immediately intrigued me is that he began talking in a different language. Right? And then he goes into France, and then he goes into German, and he finally goes into English. That to me is a perfect... It's like he's like the epitome of Reddit. When you read comments on a webpage, it does look like that. Like people have different dialects and different. So when it immediately intrigued me, I was like, okay, this guy is definitely an internet nerd. And I started listening, and what intrigued me was similar to how you felt in my performance. I didn't know what to expect. Most videos, when you click on a video, you know how it's going to end by the first 10 seconds. You know where it's going, what the topic is. With Reginald Watts, you can't. You just, no matter how much you try, you don't know where it's going to end up.
But you know there's a trust where you're in good hands.
Yes, because he has his years in music. He's classically trained. He studied jazz for 2 years. He beatboxed for several years, and
he's a multicultural person.
Yeah, I believe his parent. He had two different. His dad was from Germany and his mom was from France, or backwards. I don't know if I have it mixed up, but he's definitely. He says that one of his advantages was that he had an objective view of culture because he moved around a lot. Mm-hmm. So he got to see and listen to different languages, and that's what you see in his art. And I feel like he's a master of absurdity. Mm-hmm. He is so absurd that
and absurdity is fun.
Yeah,
it's fun.
His jokes are body language. His jokes are mannerisms, tone of voice. He makes fun of all that.
And it feels like I'm just thinking about this right now, and I kind of relate to this in a way. I kind of feel like did you ever see Men in Black?
Yeah.
You know that alien that exists inside that dude's face? And he's like, the galaxy belongs to me, right? Yeah. I kind of feel like Reggie Watts is like this alien inside the body that he inhabits.
I was going to say
like
that.
Like he doesn't belong in that body. Like he's kind of something bigger than his body.
Yeah.
Because he plays with it like it's a Trojan horse.
For real. I was going to say, when you asked me the question, what did you think? The first time I saw Reggie Watts, I thought he was out of this world. I'm like, this is not a human being. This is, for real.
It's like we're talking about David Bowie here.
That's just how out there he was. He seemed like a deity to me. Because there's moments where you're watching his videos and he kind of knows what you're thinking.
Did you see Reggie for the first time sober?
No, I didn't.
Okay.
But I'll say this.
There might be some residual sort of thing going on there.
When I watch him sober, I feel high. But when I'm high and I watch him, I feel higher. So that's a thing. Like, it really does feel like that. It's a psychedelic experience. I'm highly influenced by him. I was going to say this. There's a moment... where I was watching the video and he kind of influenced my thoughts in a way. And I asked myself a question, he answered it. And that to me shows that he knows how to prime our brains. He knows how to prime expectations.
Okay, what do you mean by prime our brains?
Like I forgot what video it was, but I know the verse. It really hit me. It hit home. He says, at that point I was very depressed, but momentarily, we go into those dips. And I was watching that video, and I was thinking about time. And he's doing, how he almost like morphs like a chameleon into different things, to different people. It almost feels like like you said, he plays with his body like it's a Trojan horse. Well, as he was transforming in between these chameleon-like states of mind, he looks straight at the camera and he says, I know it feels like we're here right now, but we're really, really not. We're somewhere in the future controlling the options, giving lots of hints to ourselves. That took me on a trip. I was like, this guy knows something. I want to follow him. I want to meet him. And that's where, that moment I said, this guy's my dad. Yeah. Like, he's someone that I could follow.
You're one of the first people that I've met that, I talked about it in the first episode of this podcast, where it's like an orientation of like what my brain's really about. And, I was saying like, Marilyn Manson was my dad. Like, he raised me and gave me more than like a father. A man in a boy's life is so important, one shape or another.
Yeah.
And you just saying that really outside of my own influence, like I didn't pervert.
Oh yeah, I remember that.
Yeah, I didn't.
The first time we talked.
Yeah, I didn't like inject that term or meme into you. You were just like, that guy's like my dad, and I was like, I know all too well where you're coming from.
Well, he's raising me. I lost my father when I was 7 years old.
I'm sorry to hear that.
It's all right.
I didn't know that, man.
I've grown out of that.
Wow.
But ever since then, like, I've looked online for a father-like figure, and I found one when I was watching wrestling. Actually, Shawn Michaels. I loved the way that he talked about spirituality and God, and he was a fellow that I followed for a while.
Oh, cool.
That's what got me into it. That's why I relate to you a lot, because I know you have that with CM Punk.
Yeah, I mean, drug free. I know he has a Pepsi logo. Oh, this thing's like burnt out because of my skin, but I showed Luis my Sprite tattoo of like the soda product Sprite. Because it was a sign of solidarity from CM Punk. He had a Pepsi tattoo that said, I don't drink.
I don't drink, yeah.
It's funny, I was at Mac Night the other day, and this comedian, really talented dude, wanted to buy me a drink. People always want to buy me drinks, and I'm like, I don't drink. I feel like such a bummer, and they're like, it's like I just blue-balled somebody. But I don't drink. But anyways, that feeling that you got with Shawn Michaels, I can totally relate to that. Because it's someone that's like, here's this guy that has gone through shit, that has gone through demons, but has some sort of faith or something. There's a passion there, and there's triumph at the end, and that is definitely something to, that's something to admire at the very least.
And that's before I got into music. I was really big into my family, my aunt's side of the family. We were really big into SummerSlam and to World, WrestleMania and all that. And we watched it together. And Shawn Michaels was that. Every time I heard his Sweet Chin music, I get super happy. Oh, he's gonna win the match. But I was gonna say, like, I knew it was fake. I mean, movies are fake.
Right. We know the fake. We know the Muppets aren't real. Yeah. But it's also fun to be like that. It exists.
Yeah, and it's when you're watching wrestling. I was we were talking earlier in the car. It's like you're watching an act 360 degrees. Yes. And you have professional actors.
Exactly what it's like.
You have a director. You have people on microphone. It's legit, and it's one of its kind. I don't think it's ever gonna die. There's just too much. There's so much growth in it, and
it's one of the first art forms. Really, it's theater.
Yeah, it was one of the first art forms ever. Yeah. So it's, Shawn. I was gonna say, to tie it back. Shawn Michaels was one of my first dads that I found and I clinged on to. And once I learned what he could teach me, then I moved on, and I'm like, where?
But he'll always be a dad.
Yeah, I feel like it's the same. Like in life and consciousness, you get these deities or these energies that guide you, and they're not confined to a vessel. Right. They move around, and so you have to be aware and follow them. And I feel like right now, my guidance is in Reggie Watts.
Right, but it's all. I think we had this conversation. We kind of had this conversation the first time we met when I went up to you at the bar, and I was like, here's my card. Wait, but before I even blah, 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 I love your work. And I think we talked about this. Otherwise, it's like deja vu or something. But, gosh, what was that thing that you just said right now? Oh, yeah, the vessels. I kind of feel, I have this theory, and it's so cool that this kind of came up organically. So and maybe this is like a male thing, like being the best of all time, or this is the greatest thing of all time. Like, I don't think that's a feminine trait. Like, I don't think that's a feminine perspective. I think it's a male thing of like champion. You know what I mean? Like ultimate alpha male.
We were hunters. So.
Yeah. So with that aside, I'm gonna alienate the women for a second, but I had this feeling of, people ask me, what's the greatest movie of all time? And I'm like, there is no one greatest movie of all time, but I can name and cite 100 films where in a moment it's being it's being the greatest movie of all time. And so that's what makes it the greatest movie of all time. But it's in a moment, and I can literally pause a movie and be like, right there. Everything that's going on and all the stuff in front of the camera and behind it, it's being the best movie of all time. And I take that a step further and I say, if you look at whatever makes something the best, if you look at it as a fabric and some sort of object.
Yeah.
Do we have this conversation?
Yeah, please.
So if it's a scroll, if it's like a fabric, and there's a tapestry about it, I feel like when something's being the best thing of all time, it is a part of the fabric, and it's all part of the same fabric.
Yeah.
So so take that kind of oneness with, okay, this guy's my dad, and now this guy's my dad, but it's part of the same fabric. So we kind of said this as well with Reggie. Bear with me here. I'm following. His vessel, like his soul, that is kind of like just that kind of light, goes from vessel to vessel to vessel. It's all part of one. It's one light. Yeah. It comes from one source.
Yes.
And it's a beautiful thing. And it doesn't belong anywhere to anybody. And sometimes it's just taking the shape of whatever thing is bouncing off of it in that moment. We lost everybody here on this. People are like, I tuned out here at this point. But I mean, what I'm trying to say is everything's kind of one. Everything really is. It comes from the same source, whatever that is. But the distinction and the power comes from recognizing a distinction and saying, this is special right now, because of this layer, because of this coat of primer, this paint, the oils, the textures is what makes it interesting.
Yeah.
But underneath it is something I'm very familiar with, and that brings us together, man.
Yeah, when a moment breaks that fourth wall
and
connects you no matter where you're at, it does feel like it's no longer humans interacting. I'll say this: I have an analogy that I live by, and Nikola Tesla, he knew things. He said that the brain is like a receptor, like an antenna.
Oh, wow.
And there is a one source that you can tune into, and everyone can tune into, and it's up to you to tune that frequency.
Yes.
He said a lot of people, Nikola Tesla would say, a lot of us choose to have low frequency, and that's okay. We need that too in order to coexist. But he said those of you that tune into the higher frequencies can pick up certain radiation from that source and create things for those that are lower.
Wow.
And
that actually explains a lot.
But I'll say this: the way that I like to see it is, how our brain is composed of neurons.
Mm-hmm.
Now, in a hypothetical situation, let's say those neurons have personalities and they have goals and emotions. Well, just how,
because in these neurons and genes and in the microcosms of the world, it contains information.
Yes,
and
we can't say that they don't live a subjective reality. We don't have proof of that. But if we can write on that idea that these neurons have their own lives and all that, you can relate the brain to how our planet is working. Each person is like a neuron, and when we connect, we call it networking because it is. But when we connect, we form stronger ideas as a society. So I see what you mean about the fabric. That fabric is when neurons connect in a way where we get a aha moment, a eureka moment, a realization. When we feel that together as people, like those actors behind that scene, that director behind that's influencing, the cinematographers that are capturing, the microphone technician, the sound engineers, when all those people are working together, those neurons, then we form a new idea. And with that new idea, like, it causes more synapses in our society. And I'd like to see the planet functioning like a massive brain, like a massive it could be an organic
100%, and it's challenging because
creature.
Since each person on the planet, if the Earth is the gray matter of like a brain, if the Earth is, and people are these neural networks, The thing that is like, that takes it into another dimension is like each person has an ego.
Yeah.
That doesn't even that can't think for a bigger picture. Mm-hmm. That is only self-serving, mm-hmm. and so it's hard for it to be kind of get to a place of transcendence.
We kind of have a mental illness as a planet. Yeah. And yeah, you're right on there.
You're hurting me in the heart.
We have to evolve past that. If we want wars to go away, if we want hunger and famine, all that stuff to go away, we can't live in mental illness. We have to get on the same page and realize, hey, maybe my ego is meant to help me in other ways.
And it's at this point where if you said this on Fox News, you'd be assassinated.
And I'd be muted, actually. I'd be, as soon as I started talking about it, I would be muted. Oh, we'll be right back with that. It seems to have some technical issues. Why? Because the people that are in place already, the people that are already there, they know that if our planet massively, if the consciousness of our planet evolves, then their profiteering systems might not survive.
That's right.
They don't like that.
That's right.
They want a world where they can. Here's the thing, Knives, that really bothers me. I'm glad that this came out organically as well. The thing that bothers me the most of this society is that we've
and this is important because you're an artist, and in a way this is kind of fuels our work. This is an engine for what we do.
This is where
look at the Malcolm X's, the Bruce Lee's, the John Lennon's. I mean, this fueled their work as well.
Yeah,
it's a humanitarian sort of quality to what we do. I mean, not to suck our own dicks. This isn't about like, wow, let's reward ourselves. We're so smug right now. I'm gonna fart into a can and smell it. It smells so good. But I mean, this is important. This is the real shit.
This is
what matters. And also, in a world where I have personally accepted, and I'm sorry for interrupting. Please hold on to that thought. But in a world where I've accepted that Trump is going to be president, I've accepted it.
Yeah, me too.
Because he is Godzilla, and we have shot nukes at this guy, and nothing affects him. You know, satire has not brought him down. Nothing is. So I can see this guy coming president and doing 2 years and being like, man, I don't want to do this anymore, and then kind of splits.
He's gonna see that it's real, and it's like, I don't want this.
And I feel like he's not going to be able to do it, and it's whatever. But I've accepted, we live in that timeline, in community.
It's a representation of ours.
We live in the darkest timeline, unfortunately. If you look in history, dude, somebody's president was Saddam Hussein. You know what I mean? This isn't that's we live in that world.
Believe.
We live in a world where sometimes, dude, I went
Hitler,
through. I went through in my life. I went through Bush, Clinton, Bush, Obama. You know what I mean? I went through so much regurgitation and crap. It was whatever order that was. But I mean, I totally see the timeline where we do get Trump. Anyways, what I'm trying to say is what you're about to say is important and it's relevant to this podcast.
Yeah. What really bothers me about this society, unfortunately, is that we've disillusioned ourselves to the beauty of what it is to be aware, and somehow these salesmen have copied the way that influencers speak, and they've robbed that from us, and they sell it back to us as luxury, the ability to be aware of ourselves, because the reason that we can't be aware all the time is because of economic struggle and all that.
What they've done is they've taken that sense of enlightenment, they've taken that sense of the exuberance of being of unity, the exuberance of wow, this is important, and they've put it on, they've associated it across the world to Coca-Cola.
Yeah.
So now it's
brands.
Now that has what it's come down to. And I say Coca-Cola because it's the number one company on the planet. That spends hundreds of billions of dollars on advertising, and the way they advertise is based on decadence. It's look at Taylor Swift. She represents white America. She represents innocent America. She represents decadence and teen and youth. And then once her fucking ticket expires, there's going to be another one, and another one, and another one. And Coca-Cola gets to take, like Michael Jackson, a guy that fucking mattered. A guy that was a black face on television at a time where music, didn't have a face. And it was a black face. And Pepsi got all over that and was like, now he represents Pepsi.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And that fucking hurts.
Yeah.
So there is a perversion in something that is supposed to be sweet, and it's supposed to be preserved, and it's supposed to be protected, and they take it and they run with it, and they kind of smear shit on the walls with it, and they call it, and they say, but an artist was behind that, and they hurt us in the process. And it hurts a whole new generation that's coming up, you know what I mean? And it's fuck, and it's perverted them, and that's all they've ever known, you know what I mean? And damn, it's really damaging. And I think we've seen it in the past 50 years especially. It fucked the world up, you know what I mean? Real quick, you know, in the 60s when it was peace, love, man, you know what I mean? People were doing drugs, people were having sex, feminist revolution was happening, people were fighting for their rights, Vietnam, Nixon, Kennedy, all that stuff. And, you know, the media was like, shit's crazy. Like, we have to do something. And then Charles Manson, you know, a singer and artist, Charles Manson, an artist, gets these people to kill Hollywood, right? And then they use Charles Manson, who never technically did anything wrong. Technically, I mean, you can say conspiracy or whatever, but I'm not saying Charles Manson is innocent, but you know what I mean. And they use this guy as a poster child to kill the momentum of the '60s. I'm not saying anything new here, and they've done it ever since. And they take something that was pure and good and could have been different and new and could have been a tangent that could have yielded a positive result, that could have, and they killed it and they neutered it and they said, hey, LSD creates the Manson family, and they killed something, and it was dead after that, you know, and that's sad. We lost something, and it's happening again today, and people tweet about it instead.
I feel like it was a crime to blame that situation on Charles Manson, because he sold an idea. He sold he would talk about evolution of consciousness. Those people chose to do what they did because they're influenced by the violence that they see, and at that time, the government and the media was, you know, propagandizing the whole war and all that. And I feel like that wasn't Charles Manson's fault, but I see what you're talking about. He was a connoisseur of consciousness, and he was trying to evolve people to think a certain way. Like, if you see any of the interviews, which I'm sure you have, the way he speaks is I feel it's on a higher frequency. He plays with the words that he's saying, and he's poetic in the way he speaks. And I feel, honestly, people at the top are afraid of him because he could influence people in such a way that if he wanted to, he could say, like, let's overthrow the government, and millions of people would follow him. Sure. But he didn't choose to say that. Yeah. Instead, he chose to be a gentleman, and like, I send positive vibes to him. I've sent him a letter, believe it or not. And
no, I believe it.
Yeah, and he reads all that stuff, and no, he hasn't replied. But I know that somewhere in there he read what I told him, and I hope he understands that he's in a situation that he shouldn't be in. I'm here to say,
there's people who that control the conversation in our country who have committed way more heinous in acts and have gotten away with it because they can pay to get away with it.
Yeah, Charles Manson didn't have the money to get away with it, unfortunately. But yeah, man, like, if we go back to the idea that our planet functions like an organism, then the faster when we can see that, we'll start to see that we're in danger, you know, with the pollution and all that, the neurons, the environment, the biosphere within that idea is in danger because of our actions. And we vote by the things we purchase. We vote by the way we behave around others. So we can like, I want to say, like, Knives and I are not talking shit about
corporate America.
Yeah, it's us. It's society, and I'm a participant of society. And when we say they, we actually mean us, you know, because we influence everyone else around us. So all we have to really do is let's stop saying my God is bigger than your God, and my religion's better than yours. Let's find a common ground where we can say, this is real. Let's base our reality off of something that we can all agree on.
Let's build ISIS a church and say, that is your church, and it's beautiful, and we got our best people to do that for you. You're welcome. And we're not asking for anything in return, right? If we gave ISIS a church to do their stuff, you know, and you let us do our stuff in our institution, what would happen? I don't know. What would happen?
Right.
What would happen?
Why do we have to act so violently?
Why do we have to drop on bombs on families and kill kids because we think ISIS is there?
I feel like, you know how there's different types of archetypes with humans? You can relate that with the different cells that we have in a body. So you have some blood cells. You have some white blood cells. Those the white blood cells, they're there to destroy things that threaten the body. So when a new idea comes out in our collectiveness, some of these people feel like they need to attack it. I feel like people like ISIS, they're like white blood cells, and they don't mean to behave the way that they do. It's just we were conditioned to behave like that. But if we go out there and say, hey man, you're like a cell and you're part of something bigger, and you show them a bigger picture, perhaps they can become aware of what they are, and then attack the correct things, attack oppression, attack negativity. And even with negativity, it can be acceptable sometimes. Like all the criticism that I've received that has made me better, it was negative. Never have I gotten better.
Like what? And same for me.
Yeah.
I have people that have torn down something that I put 100 hours in, and they're like, this, here's why this doesn't work. And it was inherently flawed, which is because I'm inherently flawed. Because it represented me, and I put a piece of my soul, like a Horcrux, into that thing. And then I took it personal because I was like, ouch, you're saying I'm shit. And I was like, wait a second. But I can fix that and make it better. Yeah. Thank you.
This guy's trying to help you.
This guy's trying to help me.
You can tell when someone's trying to help you or hurt you, you know? And when someone's trying to help you, they're very careful about it. They're like, here's what here. They kind of like, you know, when someone really doesn't want to help you, they lie to you. They tell you, oh no, dude, it's great. You're doing good. Like, yeah, it's perfect. It's very personal, but it was my stepdad. We still have time here.
No, we're good.
We're gonna stay here until they kick us out.
Yeah.
All right. My stepfather, the most recent one I have, he came up to me one day when I was practicing guitar.
Okay. All right. Okay. Thank you. Oh, we got the go home call. Right. But I mean, go ahead, please. Your stepfather.
I was practicing guitar, and I was practicing a rap, and I guess he was just having a bad day. He comes up to me and he tells me, you're never going to make it in the music industry. And I'm like, why do you tell me that? And he's like, because you keep practicing here, but you never go out there. He's like, out there is where people will criticize you, where you will get better. You can't get better if you're just in the closet, you know, performing for yourself. And I kind of took that really, and it hurt my ego. I was like, this guy just told me I'm not going to make it. But he woke me to a certain part of me. And that's why I started going out open mics, because I said, okay, well, that's one person's idea. Let me hear the world.
And that girl's like giving me bad looks.
Yeah, but
let me just say, I think when people say something like that, it comes with a positive intent.
Yeah, that's what I saw it as.
And we really have to ask people, like, you know, what is their intent behind this? And there almost always is a positive intent if we choose to focus on it that way.
If you step out of your ego.
Luis, I think that's the most appropriate way to end this. You know, I want to leave the door open in the future to do more shows.
That was great, man.
Where can people find you on the internet?
Where can they find me? I'm usually on my Facebook, so you can look me up, Luis Cantu. You can easily tell my profile.
Do you have Instagram?
I had Instagram. It was actually deleted somehow. I feel like I broke a rule or something by the topics I was talking about, having to do with consciousness and the governments. But I have a Twitter.
Okay. Where can people find you?
L3C. TURE. So just type in, you know, it's my initials, Luis Enrique Cantu, but with the E backwards, the 3. Cool. L3C TURE, lecture. I just love to. I used to be a teacher, actually, for Boys and Girls Club, for substituting. So yeah, you can find me on Twitter. You can find me on Facebook, and I also have a YouTube channel called Lecture on the Mic.
Beautiful.
Which I'm going to get active.
Awesome. And of course, guys, you can see him at Yerberia Cultura, which is on 17th Street in McAllen, Monday
nights, 9 p.m. Be there, guys. It's a wonderful atmosphere there. It's very conscious. Quite a bit of people show up, sometimes 30, 40 people.
And I would say every Monday night, there's always gems of just like, where has this person been my whole life?
Yeah, and there's new people every once in a while. And thanks to Knife's work, it's getting out there. People are the way that you capture these moments and immortalize them. It's helping the community, and I'm here. I don't know if people thank you, but I honestly, I thank you from the deepest fabrics of my heart. I'm willing to volunteer to help you with your cause, because you're gonna help out our community to have a voice again, the RG voice.
Thank you,
It's been a great time, guys.
It's great having you.
Thank you for having me.
I'll see you down the road. Thank you again, sir.